some niceties, and also the House of Commons we all remember. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
The answers you need
from the people in the know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
Off and running.
My mother taught me never to be late, so please forgive me for my late arrival to the session. I had some meetings with extremely important people in East Central Alberta, Mr. Speaker, after which I was honored to be elected by the great people of Battle River Crowfoot. I served in this House. I thank the great Damien Kirk who made it possible, and I thank the Prime Minister for calling a prompt by-election. I wonder if one day he might regret that decision, but in a spirit of good faith, I wonder if he agrees that our goal should be a Canada where hard work is rewarded, where food and homes are affordable, where streets are safe, where borders are solid, and where we're all united under a proud flag.
Poilievre making his return to the House of Commons and kicking off the first question period of the fall sitting of Parliament. And on the other side, there was Prime Minister Mark Carney.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure I speak for all parliamentarians in welcoming the member for Battle River Crowfoot back to the House of Commons. He may notice a few things have changed since he was here last. The largest women's caucus in Canadian history.
But this is the rough and tumble of Canadian politics, and it is the theater of question period, meaning being nice only lasts for so long.
This is a Prime Minister who said we'd have the fastest growing economy in the G7. We have the fastest shrinking economy in the G7. He said grocery prices would go down. They're going up faster than ever before. He promised to create jobs. He has the second highest unemployment in the G7. He's really reminding us all of that sign at the bar, free beer tomorrow. But you come back the next day and the beer is still not free and tomorrow never comes. Mr. Speaker, why is it that all of this Prime Minister's promises of yesterday turn into today's disappointments?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think if we are going to build the strongest economy in the G7, and we will, we need to be clear. We need to be clear about the scale of the crisis we are in. We need to be clear about the scale of investment that we need. $60 billion in new projects announced last week. $200 billion in investment announced last week. $100 billion in housing investment announced just yesterday. That's the scale of what we need.
In addition to sparring over the economy, the Conservative opposition came ready to go after the government on a range of domestic issues, such as immigration. This is Vincent Neil Ho, a Conservative MP from Richmond Hill, who asked about Americans crossing the border into Canada and making refugee claims.
Only a Liberal Prime Minister could promise to secure our border and fail in just 6 months. Over the summer, asylum claims from illegal U.S. crossings spiked dramatically, piling onto a staggering backlog of nearly 300,000 unprocessed claims. Many of these are likely bogus, yet claimants are immediately entitled to work permits, health care, and benefits on the backs of Canadian taxpayers. Another broken Liberal promise, another bait and switch, because he's just another Liberal Prime Minister. How much longer is the Prime Minister going to keep our border open and let it become a backdoor, unplanned stream of economic migration before he finally takes action?
Mark Carney's new immigration minister is Lena Diab from the Halifax area, who looked and sounded overwhelmed by the moment.
While the opposition is concentrating on, making assumptions and speaking about things that are not there, let me tell you that with the asylum system, our numbers are down 40%. We've also introduced Bill C-2, which will strengthen our border. And this legislation is in front of the House. We campaigned for, and Canadians have gave us a mandate, so did Conservatives, and we hope that the Conservatives will help us pass the legislation.
While it's expected that the Conservatives will help the Liberals pass some legislation, that doesn't mean partisanship has ended on Parliament Hill. This is the government House Leader, Liberal MP Steve McKinnon, who took a few shots at Pierre Poilievre.
I know there exists among all of those people a desire to help pitch in and build this country, to help make this a country work better, to help make our economy grow and work better, to help combat crime in our streets. These are things that we will be proposing, that we can work on together. And Mr. Poilievre has a big decision to make. He can continue with the three-word slogans, or he can sit down and work on real solutions with a Liberal government. And I don't see a lot of change. I see the lyrics might have changed a little bit, but the music stays the same. And that is a tone that I think Canadians rejected in the last election. I know it is a tone that Conservative voters, many Conservative voters across this country, have rejected. They want to see Conservative MPs and indeed Mr. Poilievre pitch in and work together, have good days in this Parliament where we can claim victories on behalf of all Canadians.
But for the Bloc leader, what comments like that suggest is that the Liberals just want everyone to be Liberals. This is Yves-Francois Blanchet.
There will be no negotiation, but we want to collaborate. What does that mean? Obey? Become Liberals? Might not happen.
The House convened day two a couple of hours ago with a debate on the government's Strong Borders Act. There will be a question period in a couple of hours from now. The Prime Minister, Mark Carney, not expected there today, as he has a meeting with the Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
You have questions
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
on News Radio.
We have a lot of big issues to dig into today. Professor Ian Lee is back for his weekly appearance. He is with the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. Welcome back.
Thank you very much, Rob.
Build Canada Homes. The Carney government plans to spend $13 billion to build 4,000 homes, which is $3.25 million a home, plus 4,000 housing units. I mean, it doesn't sound very ambitious. Some people are pointing out it doesn't really address some of the structural problems with building housing in Canada, like municipalities with onerous bureaucracy and high development fees. What are your thoughts on Build Canada Homes?
I was extraordinarily disappointed, extremely disappointed, because we're going backward. The government is going backward. This is an Orwellian phrase that's been used to describe this agency. It's going to ensure, really, that we don't build enough homes. You could almost say it's the anti-building agency. And the reason why is that in the last 2 years, I think it's fair to say that there was increasing, I've been arguing this for over 5 years, in op-eds and in conversation with you and other people in the media, that the fundamental problem in Canada is the municipalities in the big cities. I've said over and over, we do not have a national housing crisis. We have a housing crisis in the 10 largest cities. And when you drill down into the data, which I've used from CMHC and elsewhere, these cities have developed a very anti-building new single-family homes on the edges of the city called suburbs. And it's a very, very green ideology that is deliberately put all kinds of roadblocks in front of building enough homes. And so the problem, and there's increasing numbers of people, including the former housing minister, Under Trudeau, said that at the very end, who acknowledged this, as have other people. The problem lies at the municipal level fundamentally. Yes, there's things the federal and provincial governments should be doing and ought to be doing, but the fundamental problem is in the largest cities deliberately sabotaging, that's my word, and I've said this in speeches I've given across the country on this subject. They have deliberately socially engineered the restrictions, arguing that we've got to do densification. And so they argue, we're not against building. Look, we support densification of affordable housing. Let me turn to this document in question. When you read it, all it talks about is homelessness, and it talks about, greed and building deeply affordable homes and community housing for low-income households. It's a social policy masquerading as a housing policy. We have a fundamental mismatch between supply and demand, where there's a much greater demand for housing than there is supply. And in the largest cities, it's because of our cities doing what they're doing. So what they should have said was, we're not going to build houses. We're terrible at it. And that's not our core job as the government of Canada. We're not in the building a house of business. And they're the referee of the hockey game. And they should have developed incentives and penalties to penalize housing cities that do not build enough houses each year. That's what they should have done. And they did not do that.
It's really remarkable the way that municipalities have jacked up development fees. I mean, that's one of the reasons housing is so expensive, is at the municipal level, is the high development fees. And they've been climbing, exponentially in some parts of the
And
country.
let's go further, because the cheap defense, it's a weak and cheap defense and dishonest defense, is we need these fees. I've heard mayors say this. We need these fees because it's very expensive to build new suburbs. That's the suburbs they're blocking, by the way, to build sidewalks and roads and sewers. There is no question that these 10 largest cities, I'm talking the GTA, I'm talking Vancouver, I'm talking Ottawa, I'm talking Calgary, they have diverted, I use the word misappropriated. No, I'm not accusing mayors of putting money in their own pocket. Not at all. Misappropriated the money that was supposed to build sewers and roads and schools and fire hydrants and fire halls in the new suburbs. They misappropriated that into the operating budgets of these cities to supplement and spend more and more on social policy. If one examines the city of Toronto or the city of Ottawa, one will be blown over. Most Canadians will be blown over to see the percentage of the dollars now going into social policy writ large. And it is enormous. It's enormous. The old traditional view of the city is, garbage collection and police and fire and water and snow removal has become very small amounts relative to the total spending of the cities. So they've transformed in the last 10 years or so in the biggest cities. The cities have become giant social welfare agencies. And they could say, well, that's because there's all kinds of social problems. Well, they're not that great. Not everybody's homeless in Canada. I mean, I'm being obviously sarcastic. The estimate of homeless people, I've got StatsCan data, 35,000 in a country of 41 million people.
Oh, it's more than that.
And so we are
more than that.
Well, let's say it's 100. Let's say we know more about stats than the statisticians that collect. I don't believe that, but let's pretend. Let's pretend all of us know more about statistical collection.
Okay.
Let's say it's 100,000. It's a trivial number compared to 41 million people. And yet we're not spending 1 or 2% on this. And so the governments, the 10 largest cities, are spending a lot of money for ever-increasing, declining returns. And then you look at smaller cities, and they're building houses. You can buy a house in cities across Canada in Moncton.
I know. We're going to have to wrap. We're going to have to wrap up this part of our conversation.
Okay.
I guess to kind of circle back, I mean, CMHC is on the record saying we have to have 500,000 housing starts a year in order to come back to any kind of balanced market. We have a $13 billion program that aims to build 4,000 homes. I mean, it's
exactly.
It's not very ambitious to me. I hate to put it that way, but we'll be right back with Professor Ian Lee on to other things with the good professor here on News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
Back with Professor Ian Lee. He's here with us every Tuesday from the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. We talked about the proposed merger between mining giant Anglo American and Teck Resources of Vancouver. And a news report says Mark Carney told Anglo American he wouldn't approve that merger if the headquarters of the new company wasn't in Canada. The politics of it being you can't be seen as elbows up Captain Canada while a foreign company comes in and takes over one of the biggest mining companies in the country. What do you think of that decision by the Prime Minister?
Again, I was disappointed because he's going for the optics or the performative nature rather than the substance. Let me explain that. The number of jobs, because head offices have, in the last 10, 20 years, the old famous head offices of 5,000 people in head office died when Fortune magazine did a cover story on General Electric, and the new CEO came in at the time and he said, "There's 10,000 people in head office." He said, "What are you all doing?" And they couldn't answer a good question, so he fired almost all of them. And then the emergence, what came about was lean, mean head offices with very small numbers. You want the people out in the field actually running the business, making the products that you sell to the customer, creating value. Okay, so head offices are very small, 100, 200 people. So he went for the optics of saying, I'm insisting on a head office in Canada that's going to have 100 or 200 highly paid executives in Vancouver, instead of saying, I'm going to get rid of Bill C-69, which has put all kinds of barriers in front of very large development projects in our country that would produce thousands and thousands of jobs. But yet, this same week, he said, I refuse, I will not get rid of Bill C-69 that is inhibiting, that is prohibiting, that is stopping or slowing down billions and billions and billions of dollars of development projects, of large capital projects. So they're doing the smoke and mirrors over the substance.
Okay.
That's what Justin Trudeau did for 9 years.
Okay. Again, Tommy Caldwell, who is, of Caldwell Securities, past governor of Toronto Stock Exchange, really laments this transaction. And shares going to be listed in London, not in Canada. And again, cries about the loss of companies like Alcan, Falconbridge, and Noranda and Inco. You were pretty cold about that last week.
I am. I'll be even more cold today. It's all very fine for someone. He's a stockbroker of a sort. I mean, he works in that industry where you make your money when you sell shares. Okay, so he's much more focused on the existence of whether the brokers are making money or not. I'm not. Even though I worked in banking, I was in commercial banking, not investment banking, but they sell shares. Okay, I'm vastly more worried and concerned about that we have economic development across the country, not just in Toronto on some stock exchange, some companies listed on the stock exchange for the privileged. And so, I wish he would stand up and say, I want to see Bill C-69 killed. Because it is destroying so many investment projects in our country, and
he doesn't like to see corporate Canada being hauled out, and a lot of the big mining champions lost to foreign buyers. I think that's a
I don't agree with you
legitimate
at all.
concern.
It doesn't have any
I
impact.
know you don't, and we don't have time to rehash all of last week that we said last week. Let me give you. We only have about 45 seconds here. What's the Bank of Canada going to do tomorrow? It's going to cut rates. Stronger inflation report today.
I think the pressure on them is so great to cut rates because the economy is doing so poorly. I think that they will, even though inflation's going up, I think that they'll probably go a quarter of a point down. I think they'll move down by a quarter of a point. But I don't think we're going to see many more rate cuts. I mean, they're around the neutral zone now, according to the people that analyze the neutral rate. So I don't think they're going to go. They may do a quarter point today, but we're not going to see much more this year.
Good to hear from you. As always, thank you, Professor. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Yeah, Professor Ian Lee, Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. Be right back with our Tuesday Newsday political panel on News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
It is time for our Tuesday Newsday political panel. Kate Harrison is here, Vice Chair at Summa Strategies. How are you? Hi, Kate. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you now. How are you, Rob?
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Matthew Dube, former NDP MP, Vice President, Proof Strategies. Welcome back, Matthew. Good to hear from you.
Hi, Rob. Happy to be here.
Yeah, very good to hear from you as well. Why don't we start with the latest breaking news? The newest news first. Chrystia Freeland, according to a report from Bob Fife in the Globe and Mail, is expected to leave her cabinet post as Transport and Internal Trade Minister and take a special global role involving Ukraine. She has told Mark Carney, she has told his chief of staff. What do you make of this announcement, Kate? What do you think of it? Well, it's not really an announcement. It's a news report so far, but there could be news this afternoon sometime, apparently.
Yeah,
what do you think of it?
A couple of different outlets are reporting it. I think this has been a pretty poorly kept secret, Rob, for some time in Ottawa, at least, that Minister Freeland was likely to be making a change and an adjustment. There was an earlier speculative piece that maybe she was going to receive an international appointment. I think, she ran against Mr. Carney for the Liberal leadership, got what I would describe as a tier 2 cabinet posting, and I think that it's probably an inevitable conclusion to her time with the Liberal Party. I think I would say that she has been a very strong advocate for more support for Ukraine, and has been very involved in the nature of Canada's support for Ukraine so far. And so this seems like it will be a good fit if it's indeed true that she's going to lead an envoy to Ukraine.
Okay. What do you think, Matthew, about this story?
Well, I won't make for exciting radio, but because I basically would agree and echo with what Kate was just saying. Listen, something that's been rumbling for a while. I mean, Minister Freeland's been in Ottawa in the House of Commons for over 10 years now, right? It's a grueling work, as folks who've been there know. And she's obviously served her country for many years in that capacity. So, more power to her if she's ready to move on to something else. I think the only thing I would add is that I think there's kind of two things here, a risk and an opportunity for the Prime Minister. The risk is it's one less, pending the eventual by-election way down the road, one would assume. It's one less vote in the House of Commons in what's already a pretty slim minority situation. And I think the reward is just, obviously, despite what happened at the end of last year, Minister Freeland's pretty closely tied with the last Prime Minister. So I imagine from an optics and communications perspective, it's probably not bad if Prime Minister Carney wants to create more of a new brand that distinguishes himself from Mr. Trudeau. So that's probably something that'll help a little bit as well.
In my mind, I'd like to know if you agree with this, Kate. I think the Liberals should thank Chrystia Freeland. Chrystia Freeland is the one that got the whole thing going with the ouster of Trudeau. I mean, in my mind, if she reads that fall economic update and just kind of goes along to get along, I wouldn't have been surprised if Mr. Trudeau had stayed on. And who knows, maybe it's Prime Minister Pierre Poilievre today, but she kind of got the dominoes to fall. It didn't turn out in the Liberal leadership the way she wanted it to, but she's the reason. I think she was the genesis of this Liberal government right now. What do you think, Kate?
She was gasoline on a small fire. And when you consider that, well over a dozen people in the Liberal caucus last fall were openly expressing their concerns about the Prime Minister's leadership. And, there was all this suggestion that maybe there would be a caucus coup. It never materialized. Trudeau held on. That moment in December when Freeland said, she was resigning and she was at odds with the PM in his direction, that certainly was an accelerant to his departure. Was it the sole reason? Who knows? That's revisionist history. But I think you're right, Rob, that she played a fairly instrumental role in the shakeup that happened here in Ottawa. So, keep in mind, there's also the personal relationship there between Carney and Freeland. He's the godfather to her children, I believe, or vice versa. And so I think that it will be treated with some grace following her exit.
Yeah. What do you think, though, Matthew? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's true that it accelerated things. It's kind of hard to say how other events would have played out, but I think the Prime Minister was kind of at the end of the political road there, or the previous Prime Minister, I should say. So yeah, definitely true there. And I think the grace that Kate just referred to, I think is warranted regardless of those events. As I said a minute ago, this is someone who served in the House of Commons for over 10 years, and regardless of party, we know that, especially in this day and age, it's tough work, and she's taken on prominent roles. So whether people like or dislike what she might have done politically, we have to tip our hat to people who engage in this form of public service. So that's certainly what I would do on a day like today, or I guess when the announcement officially comes, because as I think Kate was saying this before, it's not actually official yet technically, but I mean,
not official yet.
I will be
it's all over the
curious
place.
Officially, unofficially official.
I'll be curious
Sorry,
to see if Justin Trudeau has much to say with her departure. Does he extend his gratitude? I'll be watching for that a little more than Prime Minister Carney.
Well, that's interesting. I would say, just in closing, and You guys can comment on this. I mean, you turn to political legacies of a powerful cabinet minister. I mean, she was there in the early days of the liberal rebuild. She was wooed to come out of the private sector and be part of what was a pretty small liberal team at the time, and with
Mhm.
the third party, but a young and at the time exciting leader. I mean, that's part of her role. She was there. She helped with the liberals rebuild, I think. What do you think, Kate?
Agreed. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's right. She shouldn't be written off as, at least from the conservative side, as an ineffectual finance minister, though there'll be lots of debate about that. She took a risk. She took a risk in
She took a
rejoining
risk,
politics to build a team.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Matthew, quick
100%.
comment there.
Yeah, no, offered credibility and some wind in Justin Trudeau's sails when he first became leader when she won that by-election. So undoubtedly helped in those days in 2013 onward, leading to their win in 15.
Yeah. We'll be right back. Our Tuesday Newsday political panel. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Tuesday Newsday political panel with Kate Harrison from Summa Strategies and from Proof Strategies, Matthew Dube. Well, Kate, you've been arguing that now is the time for conservatives to double down on domestic issues, and certainly the conservatives seem willing to oblige, but why do you feel this way?
Well, I think there's really two things. Number one, Pierre and the Conservatives are strong on cost of living and affordability issues. I think that they dug in, as you know, Rob, during the campaign on those domestic concerns and tried not to get into the fray with Trump. And there's lots of debate on whether or not that was the right strategic call. I think that it was the call that makes sense for Poilievre and the Conservatives. And now what we've seen over the course of the summer, and as Trump slides a bit more into the rearview mirror, those other day-to-day issues for Canadians are coming more into the fore. And I think that has always been the case for a certain constituency of Canadians and a demographic, particularly young people and millennials who are trying to make ends meet, who frankly don't have the financial autonomy and liberty to be concerned about Trump. I think Pierre was successful in speaking to those people. But as you see, the inflation numbers are out today, again high.
Oh, yes.
Food bank usage up, still issues with home building and housing affordability. I think that Carney's globetrotting is going to wear a bit thin with voters when they continue to face these domestic affordability issues, and that's where Conservatives can shine a light.
What do you think, Matthew?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think, not only are the inflation numbers out today, but the other set of data I would look at is polling. And the reality is that younger Canadians, especially, 18 to 45, the main issue now for, I think, not arguably, but the facts are the facts, but I think for the first time this year is the number one priority. And overall for Canadians, it is as well, even if you factor in sort of the older age groups who are still looking a little bit to the trade tensions with the U.S. So it makes strategic sense. It's also something that's needed to be focusing on these issues because it hasn't gone away despite, I hesitate to use the word distraction because it's obviously a significant issue, our relationship with the U.S. But, when we look at home, we realize there's still a lot of work to do independently of that. The only other thing I would add, too, is I think that one thing the Prime Minister, I have plenty of time that we won't have today, offline to talk about the failings of getting a deal, even though that was sort of the impression that he gave to voters during the election. One thing he's done successfully, and it's actually maybe to his detriment, is calm things down with President Trump. So you're not hearing, the term governor being used in a disparaging way and less 51st state talk. And what I think that does, though, is I think it changes the news cycle a little bit and reminds Canadians of some of the challenges that they have in terms of groceries and the like still being unaffordable. So it's going to shift where Canadians' priorities are, and the government has to follow suit.
So there have been hints about the potential for cooperation between Liberals and Conservatives during this session of Parliament. Where do you think there's a potential for collaboration, Matthew, between those two parties?
Well, I think that's a good question. I think, the main thing for Conservatives, I think, is, and I think it's something that comes out of the last election for Pierre Poilievre in particular, is just finding the right balance on tone and showing that there's a willingness to collaborate on things where it makes sense. We saw that in the spring with Bill C-5 looking to fast track major projects. But, and I think even in question period yesterday, there seems to be, a more of a desire from the leader of the official opposition to position himself more statesmanlike and leave his critics to play more of the attack dog role. That being said, it'll be interesting to see with the budget, because I have a hard time imagining, the Conservatives wanting to collaborate on a budget where there might be, additional spending or a rather large deficit. I suspect it'll be more on the legislative front, specific pieces of legislation that might, relate to cutting red tape or things like that, if such a thing is in the cards, like we saw in the spring. But there doesn't really seem to be much substance to that. It kind of just seems to be an open-ended olive branch that the government's extended without really backing up how they're going to go seek that support.
Where do you see these two sides working together, Kate?
The two things that come to mind immediately, or perhaps three, Rob, bail reform. We know the government is going to introduce some legislation on it. The question will be whether or not it goes far enough, and if there's sufficient pressure being applied to other jurisdictions from Ottawa to get their house in order on the catch and release policies that have had a big impact on crime in the country. Foreign workers and immigration is another. So again, we know that changes may be forthcoming on the TFW program. I suspect it's going to fall short of what Conservatives would like to see happen there, but there may be an opportunity again to extend the olive branch and work together on a policy that attempts to meet the needs in the moment. And then, of course, this energy building and national building infrastructure is the other big one. So Conservatives did support C5 as a means of accelerating approvals, but you also have a lot of energy industry leaders saying that even that is not moving fast enough. There was a letter released just yesterday from about 95 energy leaders working across Canada, not just oil and gas, but other energy industries, saying the government is still not moving fast enough, and maybe they're a bit skeptical about whether or not C5 is and the Major Projects Office is the be-all and end-all. So there is an opportunity to work together, I think, to advance those things in particular. It's going to be whether or not it goes far enough, or is it watered down policy, and will the government be able to move fast enough?
Okay. Be right back with more political thoughts and strategies today here on our Tuesday Newsday political panel. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Tuesday Newsday political panel. Kate Harrison, Matthew Dube with us today. Matthew, what do you think of this line of thought? Mark Carney's abandoned progressives. What do you think of that? He's abandoned the progressives.
I think it's true. I think the problem right now is that the NDP needs to find the leader who can capitalize on that moment, and not only the messenger, but the message, right? I think, it's not just the challenge is not just vis-a-vis Mark Carney and taking advantage of the opportunity of him abandoning progressives. I think it's also harkens back to what we were talking about at the top of the program, where you look at Pierre Poilievre's relentless focus on cost of living, affordability. These have for a long time were bread and butter issues for the NDP. And I think that part of this process has to be tapping into that as well. It's not just about reaching out to people who are disenchanted or disappointed, even in these early days by the Prime Minister, but also trying to shoehorn ourselves back into the conversation around the issues that matter most to Canadians, where the NDP has in the past been a strong champion.
What do you think, Kate?
Yeah, I think where it becomes quite obvious that he's leaving those progressive bona fides at the door would be in the treatment of organized labor. You look at how the Air Canada flight attendant strike was managed or mismanaged. The government really hit the big red button on that issue preemptively. And I think that they have had some difficulty in trying to maintain what I would describe as a pretty solid working relationship between organized labor and the Trudeau government. I'm not sure that Carney is bringing that approach. So that creates an opportunity for the Conservatives who are trying to court support from unions. And I think where you're seeing a lot of that tension play out on the progressive side of the aisle is around the environment. And, removing the emissions cap is being rumored and suggested to be under consideration by Ottawa. It's hard to see how that would jive with members of the previous Trudeau government, even the treatment of the EV mandate. I think that the Carney is walking a bit of a line there, trying to make members of cabinet and caucus happy. Perhaps if he had his way, it would be gone altogether. So you see that tension kind of beneath the surface. It's a question of, how far will be too far for the Stephen D. Bows and others of the world until they start speaking up a little more actively about turning their back on some of those more progressive policy issues.
Okay, give me a sleeper issue that could become more prominent in the months ahead in Canadian politics. Very quickly, Kate Harrison, 30 seconds or less.
I think Canada's relationship with China. There's rumors and suggestions that they're going to repeal the tax on Chinese EVs, perhaps in exchange for something on canola. And I think I'll be watching for how many more linkages Canada and the government look to create with China and the Pacific.
China, okay. The relationship with China. 30 seconds or less, Matthew. Sleeper issue.
Yeah, Rob, I'm going to go with online safety, and particularly as it relates to AI. There's a lot of talk about the innovation and business opportunity that this expanding sector represents. But I think there's also a lot of risk for young people, in particular online. And I think some of these horrible stories we're hearing, I think that's something the federal government's going to have to put some thought to in the coming months and years.
Very interesting. I'm talking about online harms when we do our talkback today. So that's very, very fitting. I picked Watch Maid, medical assistance in dying. There's going to be more news about that, I think. And there's a bill in the Senate about advance consent, so watch that. And I would say, watch Canada Post and Cup W. Yeah. And will those workers walk out again before the holiday season starts? Could we have another holiday postal strike in this country like we had last year? Watch that one too. Be right back with Talkback. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Matthew. Bye-bye.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. We got a big one for you today. Today's topic, policing the internet. Policing the internet. The government regulating content on the internet. Hope you'll join the discussion today. Here are some questions for you. How open are you to the idea of the government regulating content on the internet? Would you say you're not open to the idea at all? You're totally opposed to the idea? Somewhat open to it? You'd like to know the details? Or would you say, I'm in favor of it? The internet can be a dangerous place, and content on the internet should be regulated, and it should be policed. Look, it's a tricky one. And there's a lot to consider. But we welcome your phone calls on the topic today at 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. The previous government, the Trudeau government, tried to pass a number of bills to regulate content on the internet. And they were bills that raised a whole bunch of questions. Questions about free speech, questions about censorship, questions about government overreach, questions about Canadian culture, Canadian identity, questions about disinformation, radicalization, the need to protect children from predators on the internet. The Trudeau government passed the Online Streaming Act, said it was needed to promote the production of Canadian content because of the rise of the streaming giants like YouTube and Prime and Netflix. The Trudeau government passed the Online News Act, aimed to force Canadian tech giants to share revenue with Canadian news outlets. Meta, the parent company of Facebook, refused to comply with that act and block Canadian news from Facebook, a block that still exists. The legislation we want to focus on today is the Trudeau-era Online Harms Act. It tried to pass that in various forms over the years, but it faced a lot of backlash. And when the election was called, that bill died on the order paper, meaning if they want to reintroduce it, they'll have to start all over again. But word is the Carney government is thinking about doing that, reviving at least something like the Online Harms Act. When it was first going down this road, government was trying to argue at the time social media platforms need to be regulated, they need to be policed because of the serious issues of sexual exploitation of children, bullying, promotion of self harm. Social media platforms are used to spread hateful content, users inciting violence, promoting terrorism. And with the rise of AI, the thinking is these problems are only going to get worse, not better. But the bill had and still has many critics. And among the criticisms was free speech, or what the charter calls freedom of expression. Critics worry that increasing government regulation of the internet means we will all be less free to express ourselves. There could be a chill on debate and dissent, and it amounts to government censorship of the internet. And they note that the criminal code has penalties already for crimes like hate speech and inciting violence, child exploitation, child pornography, harassment. The government countered new laws were needed because of this material to spread and spread so fast. So, if they're going to do it, it's back to the drawing board. Carney government could very well try again. What amounts to policing the internet, regulating content on the internet. We want to have this discussion with you today because of the many issues that come up relating to the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the young American conservative organizer shot and killed on a college campus in Utah last Wednesday. First, there's the video of that assassination, a very close-up video of him being shot, reeling backwards, blood gushing from his neck. It's gruesome, it's explicit, it's incredibly violent, graphic, and it's spread across the internet in minutes. And none of the social media platforms seemed the least bit concerned about who might see it. And by now, who knows how many elementary school-age children have seen that video. So there's that. Graphic, violent material all over the internet. And then there's what came after that, the reaction on social media, some celebrating murder, hoping there would be more similar acts of violence against other political figures, inciting violence. Some people have been fired from their jobs for that. Others have been doxxed. Let's make this person famous is a common thing to see on social media. Make this person famous. Others vowed to exact revenge. Posts about taking out liberals, getting revenge on the left. Posts about the coming civil war. And what concerns some people is that the more people see this type of thing, the more normal it becomes, and it's really not normal at all. And then there's the reported radicalization of the alleged perpetrator. A young man who was, by all accounts, a good student from a stable home, but someone who spent an excessive amount of time online in what have been called digital echo chambers, where expressing the desire to perpetrate violence against the enemy was commonplace. And that's a story that's so familiar. Someone starts out as a good kid. They go down an internet rabbit hole. They climb out of it. They commit cold-blooded murder, mass murder, terrorism. So the case could be made. We need legislation, like an Online Harms Act, because it would hold these companies accountable, responsible for the dangerous material that they allow to spread on their platforms without any real consequences. But there's a whole other side. Critics will say, if you give the government this power, the government will go too far. You can bet on it. And if such a law ever exists, the government will inevitably start censoring views it not only deems to be harmful, but views it disagrees with. and could even criminalize views the government doesn't agree with. And you can't have that in a country where you have a fundamental right to freedom of expression. If the government starts regulating content on the internet, the government will inevitably abuse that power. Where do you come down on this? Policing the internet. The government regulating content on the internet. 1-833-668-2577 is our call-in line. If you've never called before, just mention that. We'll make your call a priority. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Policing the internet, the government regulating content on the internet. Where do you stand on that? Let's get right to our phone lines, jam-packed phone lines on this one. Good to see Dave in Halifax up first on Talkback today. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Rob. Very good topic. A very tough one for me even to try to come up with a solution, because I think in some ways it's too late. But on the flip side, I also think it's very possible the government can do whatever they want. With the technology, I call us basically we're part of. We have our phones in our pocket everywhere we go. We can be monitored at any one time. Like these smartphones, these smart TVs, your cars have cameras in them, which police will use. The reason they got this character is there were cameras all over the campus, wasn't there? And they tracked him. They were able to follow him more or less. And if they didn't get it from those cameras, they would have got it from somewhere else, right? And there's cameras everywhere. We are being hunted, or not necessarily hunted, but let's be real. We could be listened to right now. You know,
surveilled.
And I think you have
surveilled.
surveilled. Yes,
yeah.
You have to be careful. Like some of the folks that are getting canceled, right? And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. We've seen that on both left and right. And when you remark, and I tell my kids, right? I say, you can watch and listen to whatever you want. They're adults, because in fact, I was talking to my son who's in the military. We talked about this, Charlie Kirk, and we both resolved, and we sat down and we said, this man, shooter, assassin, was trying to eliminate free speech. And that's what we concluded. And if we get to the point where we regulate or eliminate free speech, but then, like I said, on the flip side, you have groups such as ISIS that was recruiting lost souls like that person that shot Charlie, because they were in a zone of their life, confused, demoralized, maybe felt left out somewhere. And once we allow the government in, China has a social credit score. There's cameras everywhere there, and if you're not pulling your own weight, your family will be detrimental to the growth of China. And now I may be wrong on that, Rob, but I believe it is easy to implement. We have cameras everywhere you go. In fact, I think they say you're on a camera 17 times a day, whether you're at a gas station or whatever. So I think it's almost gone to it's too late. But as an individual, if you could start teaching your children and being parents and start telling them, it's like TV. Remember TV back in the day? You would be grounded, no more TV for a week. You have to find out what your children are doing. If they're sitting in the room and they're on some bad stuff, you better get on it right away, because there is a lot of bad stuff. You can't. It's hard to regulate. You know what I mean? It's far
I got
too
you, Dave.
gone.
Thank you. You're wary about when you hear it, the government regulating content on the internet. We're very busy with calls today, so I will move along to Susan. Up next, a first-time caller in Calgary. Hi, Susan.
Hi.
Hi, Susan. The government regulating content of the internet. Where do you stand on that?
Well, first, I want to say I love your show. I listen to it every day.
Thank you.
This is a really good topic, and I wish I had all the answers. However, the one point that I want to make is I agree with the previous caller where it comes to the children. All my life, and I'm in my 60s, there's been X-rated movies. Like a child can't just walk into an 18-plus movie, or they can't go to a bar or this or that. It just needs to get back to parents parenting, and they need to keep their children off of this stuff. I mean, their minds are too young to understand or decipher which is real, which is AI, which is all of it, recruiting, all of it. and there's so much bullying and stuff on there. Why have your children on there? They don't need it. We all survived. We didn't have it
So you
growing up.
think,
We had
like,
friends.
and this is a point that the previous caller made, regulating content on the internet should start at home. Is that's what you're saying?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
As adults, we do not need the government regulating what we do and do not see. By the time you're an adult, you should have the brain power to decipher on your own. But as children, young minds, and stuff like that, no. The parents need to say, you know what, you don't need a cell phone at 13. We didn't have cell phones. A lot of their parents.
Well, it's not
didn't
just
have
a cell
phones.
phone. It's, a TikTok account, an Instagram account, a Facebook account, an X account,
Exactly,
and
which
all
they
the
can
other
get
accounts, right?
access to
Yeah.
through the cell
Right.
phone, right? Give them
Yeah.
a flip phone that you can only make calls on to make sure that they're safe and you can contact them. Those are still available and they're cheaper.
Okay. All right, Susan. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Yeah, very similar comments to the first caller. Regulating content on the internet, policing the internet. The government is thinking about reviving the Trudeau era Online Harms Act, saying those issues haven't gone away, and with AI, they're only getting worse. We'll see what the final draft legislation looks like. It's not out yet, and there've only been some preliminary remarks from the new Justice Minister, Sean Fraser, about them, but regulating content on the internet, where do you stand on that? Just gut feeling here. It's Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
James in Calgary's a first-time caller. Our topic today, policing the internet, the government regulating content on the internet. Where do you stand on that, James? Thanks for calling.
In all honesty, I think they should start regulating some of it.
Okay.
I don't know how good Facebook and them are at blocking this stuff, but I remember a few years ago, if you remember that guy who was murdered in Peru, all over Facebook. I remember reporting the incident. All they came back is, we'll blur it out. You can choose to look at it if you want. I mean, that's somebody being murdered, and they're okay with it being on. Yeah, like you said, anybody can look at it. A 6-year-old
On their
can click
platform.
on the button, and yeah,
Right,
exactly. So
Okay.
I honestly think that there should be some, government interference, or not interference, but policing
Regulation.
that stops that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Like you said, Charlie Kirk was shot. How many people have seen that? Whether it been on TikTok or TMZ or whatever.
Billions. It's probably been viewed billions of times by now.
And like you said, little kids don't need to see that kind of stuff, let alone adults. They don't need to be seeing that.
So what if because this was sort of how it was envisioned with the Online Harms Act. I'm not saying I agree or disagree with it. I have grave concerns about some of the material that was in the Online Harms Act. Material is flagged, like this video that you're talking about this man in Peru. Flagged, okay? There's an order from the regulator in Canada. You have to take that down. That can't be accessible to people in Canada, and you have 24 hours to do it. And if you don't do it, we are going to penalize you with a massive fine. What would you think of something like that?
It depends on the company, I guess. If you look at somebody like Facebook who has, unlimited money, or if you look at it, they could, okay, here's the fine, I'll pay it. I mean, there may be a little bit more harsher penalties. But, I understand
And
where
I'm not
the
saying
callers
you're
are
going
saying that.
after, I'm not saying you're going after, the account holder who's posting the video, but you're going after the platform that hosts it. You're going after the
Right.
TikToks, the Facebooks, the X's, the Instagrams, and all of those, right?
I guess you have to look at what the kind of the fine would be. I mean, if it's like, here's a $500 fine. That's
No.
nothing
I'm
to
talking
the platform.
like you're going to be fined $10 million if you don't take that down within 24 hours.
And I think they would open their eyes that they would jump on that really fast to get it off because, it's $10. Say, for instance, it was $10 million per day that was up. That's going to add up pretty fast.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Is there time for one more? Probably not, right? Okay. Yeah, but the next caller would only have about 30 seconds. That's unfortunate. I hope if you're on the line, you will hang on the line. And the latest breaking news is coming up next. And then we'll be right back on this topic policing the internet, the government regulating content on the internet. Want to know where you stand on this? There could be some legislation this fall along these lines. How open are you to the idea of government regulating content of the internet? Not open at all? Like totally opposed? Somewhat open to it? Or are you in favor of it? Because the internet can be a dangerous place, especially for young people, and content on there should be regulated, especially on social media. Be right back after the latest breaking news. Talkback just getting going here on a Tuesday. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We've been talking about the government regulating content on the internet, just finding out where you stand on that, whether you're opposed to the idea, somewhat open to it, totally in favor of it. The Trudeau government really had an obsession with wanting to regulate what Canadians could and couldn't see on the internet. Spent a lot of political capital doing battle with tech giants with things like the Online News Act, and that's why Canadians still can't see Canadian news on Facebook. You had the Online Streaming Act that was part of the digital sales tax, something the Carney government just abandoned in an effort to placate Trump and try to advance a trade deal with the U.S. Here we're more talking about the Online Harms Act. That was a bill that the previous government tried to pass a few times, didn't quite get it right. And when the election was called, what was left of it died. So for it to make a comeback, it would have to be reintroduced. And we've heard the government is thinking about doing just that, and with even a more urgent tone because of AI. The previous bill didn't really talk too much about AI, which the government says sort of supercharges a lot of the same issues related to the issues that the Online Harms Act was supposed to try and deal with it. But what we're talking about in the end would be more government regulation of the internet, the government regulating content of the internet, the government, if you will, policing the internet. Some people might hear that and say, I don't think that's a very good thing at all. I want to know what you think. 1-833-668-2577 to Joe in Kitchener. Joe. Hello, Joe.
Hey, Rob. Back in
Hi,
Kitchener
Joe.
again. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
I'd
good.
rather be sticking pins in my eyes, but here I am. But I digress. Yeah, Rob, I think it comes down to human nature. So humans can't be trusted because of human nature. I generally, this flies in the face of what I believe is government overreach. So I'm really conflicted with this one, but I hate social media even more. And I'm not saying government should regulate the internet per se, because that's a wide-ranging bag of tricks. So no, what I'm saying is I want to see government regulation of social media. As you know, I'm not a social media follower. I'm not a lemming. I don't need to justify my existence through social media like a lot of these other people that sit like cowards behind their computers and post all this crap. If you have a problem with me, come and say it to my face. And it'll probably go over like a fart in church, but I digress. Like, why don't you take it the old-fashioned way? If you have something to say, go out in a soapbox and stand on the corner of a busy street and profess your views to the world. See how that goes for you. If it's not the same. Like, I don't subscribe to this social media, and I'd like to see it regulated.
You would. Okay. All right, Joe. Fair enough. Thank you. Enjoy Kitchener. Robert in Calgary is up next. Hello, Robert.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi, Robert. What do you think?
Well, my feeling is it isn't a matter of regulating the social media or regulating the internet. It's a matter of making some tweaks to the current laws we already have about free speech, what you can do. Like right now, it is illegal to lie to promote hatred. It's illegal to promote terrorist organizations. It's illegal to do all kinds of things. The laws were written before the internet for the most part. And I think those laws laws need to be tweaked and maybe a phrase added to them saying including on social media and the internet in general.
Okay.
And then have one more thing applied that says you can't do these things privately without being identified. You don't have to have identification on the spot on the internet. The social media companies or other internet organizations need to be put on the alert that if they get a subpoena saying, all right, who is this account and who said this, then they have to comply. And then the anonymity from legal enforcement disappears.
Okay. Well, what about this? If I sign up for an account on a social media platform, should I be allowed to remain anonymous? Or should my identifiers on the social media platform be, my first and last name, for example? What do you think there?
It's what I just said. You don't need to go quite that far. You need to have the people that run the platforms required to
know who I am.
They have to know who you are. They can't sign up without giving that, and the platforms have to be required to respond to subpoenas for that information.
All right, very interesting. Thank you. Thank you. Robert is in Calgary. Gary is in Guelph, Ontario. Hello, Gary. Up next on Talkback. Hi, Gary.
Hey, Rob. How are you, buddy?
Very good, Gary. What do you think? Regulating content on the internet.
Well,
harmful content.
I think, it's a heavy subject, that's for sure. Well, I have a 13-year-old daughter at home, and she has a cell phone, and she's on the TikTok, and she's on the Instagram, and all these other platforms and stuff. And, I know she sees a lot of bad content as much as I do. Like, there's some good stuff on there, for cooking or learning something or whatever. But, there's so much bad stuff out there, like that awful thing that happened to Kirk, even myself, when I first saw it a couple of times, it was extremely disturbing. And, but I found that as I was on Instagram kind of scrolling from, one little clip to another little clip to another, it was all over different angles and this, that, and everything else. And I kind of got sick of it. I'm like, man, oh man, I want to watch something different and more positive. So I'm all about trying to just make it a better, safer place for the kids and even for adults as well. But there's so much garbage out there, AI. I've had to watch something once or twice and go, is that real or what? But,
sure. Yeah.
I've had this conversation with my colleagues and my fiance is that, it's like, going to the bar. You had to, I'm 58. I had to wait till I was 19 to get to the bar and show my ID. I wish there was something, like that for
like
when
an
they're
age
signing
verification, an age verification system for social media.
Yeah, because when they're signing up, like anyone can just go on there. Yeah, I'm this age or I'm that age. I know it would be hard to do it, and they could say, oh, my mom doesn't like Facebook, but I'm going to join up Facebook and I'm going to use her birth date and her name and her social. Like they'll have all that information, but it's scary times, that's for sure. And there's stuff disturbing for me, and my poor daughter. She says, well, I just scroll by it, and I'm like, yeah, but you got to see it for like even a split 10 seconds. So that's still in your mind, right? That
exactly. What does that do to people? What does that do to a young mind? Look, Gary, we've got to run. I appreciate your concern. We'll be right back on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
The government regulating content on the internet in the name of it being harmful. Where do you stand on that? 1-833-668-2577. Harmful online content. Who's up next, Curtis? I've kind of lost track here. Marty in Halifax. Okay. First time caller. Marty. Hello, Marty.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I'm very good, Marty. Thank you.
I just wanted to believe what the first few callers that you said. I think that it's all about parents regulating and watching what their kids do. Let's be responsible parents and watch what these guys are doing and ask what they're doing on while they're on the internet and doing their thing. I think that's the most important. That's step one. And then I don't even believe that I go to a regular establishment on a regular basis, and I see little kids and children on their cell phones and on their iPads, and I don't understand that. How come you can't sit at a table and in a family scenario and talk to your parents, talk to your children, ask them what they're doing, what's going on. Like, I think parents need to be accountable for what their children are doing. I don't think the government needs to step in, at least not yet. But I think, that's my point. And
it's turning out to be a
really
popular
enjoy
opinion
what you're
today
doing with
that
your show.
regulation of the internet should start at home. Shouldn't have to rely on the
I
government.
believe that. I think parents need to step up to the plate. If they're going to be parents of children, they need to mentor these kids and show them what's right and wrong. So, I'm also 60 plus. Never had this problem when I was a kid because that wasn't a deal. But I think it's definitely up to the parents to tell these children or at least ask these children what they're looking at, what what's important to them, and curb that. And
Okay,
I
Marty.
think that's important.
Thank you, Marty, for having your say. That's actually becoming a popular opinion today. Content regulation starts at home. Phil is in Halifax. Hello, Phil.
Hey, how's it going?
Very good, Phil. Thank you. What do you think?
I think that it doesn't necessarily. It should start at home, but I do believe that they should regulate the like the Instagrams, the Facebooks, and stuff like that. Because you watch one video about not liking an individual, and then it'll keep sending you videos of not liking that person. And,
Right.
And it's like confirmation bias type of thing.
Right. Because the algorithm will say, well, Phil's interested in this kind of material. Let's send Phil more of that stuff. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then your feed is
and then
filled
it's just
with
full of that stuff. I feel like it should. I feel like they should. If they're going to regulate anything, I feel like it should be the algorithm and the confirmation bias when it comes to social media.
Okay, very interesting. I wonder if that's even, is it possible from a technology point of view to do that? I wonder. I don't know.
I mean, they're doing it, so they can stop it.
If they're doing it, they can stop it. Okay. All right. Very interesting. Okay. Thank you, Phil. Thank you. Mike in Dartmouth. Oh, no, we're stopping here. Sorry. You're running a tight ship today, Curtis. All right. We'll be right back. This is Talkback. Hang on the line. And we'll get right to your call right after this here on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We've been talking today about policing the internet, the government regulating content on the internet, and asking where you stand on that. Harmful content on the internet, according to the government. 1-833-668-2577. Mike in Dartmouth is up next. Hi, Mike.
Good afternoon. How are things with you?
Very good, Mike. What's your opinion?
My opinion, background, I'm 75. I'm a retired lawyer. And I inherently don't trust the government when it comes to these things. Like, who's going to make the decisions while we watch? And that's the biggest problem. I do not trust a bunch of bureaucrats and politicians to decide what we're going to watch and not watch. This harkens back in the 60s, going to St. Mary's. They banned Lady Chatterley's Lover and Henry Miller books and all that sort of stuff. It's the same thing, except now it's the internet. Parent responsibility, that's where it should fall. Junior should not be allowed to watch what he wants to watch. I mean, my parents went through and saw all kinds of things, the horrors of World War II. They come out all right. So my other big concern is Canadian public don't care. They're uninformed, and they love big government. My biggest concern with Canadians, they love big government, and they're not fazed by government overreach. That is a concern. And who's going to decide what you watch? Should be you, if you're an adult.
Right. Okay. Well, as it was envisioned before, the government was going to create a digital safety commission. There would be a commissioner.
Well, let's face
It would
it, the
decide what
Conservative
is
government
what,
in,
and it would decide what is harmful and what is not, and it could flag content and order that content to be wiped from the
and
Canadian
you've been
internet within
around, if you
24
like,
hours.
if it was a liberal government in, there'd be a bunch of liberal hacks there, and if it was a conservative government, there'd be a bunch of conservative hacks in these committees. Let's face it, that's the way it works in this country. It'd be part of the patronage. So I don't want a commission and a bunch of feckless bureaucrats deciding what I watch. We're adults. We can sort out the crap, and we can bring in basic regulations, but obscene materials, who defines obscenity? I mean, the obscenity law is like the American approach by the Supreme Court down there was you know it when you see it. So rather than put a definition on it. So I don't trust the bureaucracy, and I don't trust government if they control
fair
the
enough.
knowledge.
All right. Thank you, Mike in Dartmouth. Not in favor. Rick in Halifax. Hello, Rick.
How you doing?
Very good, Rick. What's your opinion?
I 100% agree with the previous caller, and as far as regulating the internet, it's beyond their control, because the next thing that's going to happen is they're going to be doing like they do in England, where if you post a comment about somebody and the government doesn't like it, they're arresting you and putting you in jail. Like, that's just foolishness. And it's, as far as I'm concerned, it gets down to a fascist or a dictatorship government by doing that. We have hate laws in this country that can completely regulate what is said on the internet.
Oh yeah, the hate laws. We already have laws on the books about inciting violence, promoting extremism, promoting terrorism, let alone all the laws about sexual exploitation of children. All of these laws already exist, which was one of the main points of the critics of the last bill.
No, absolutely. And I think I've called in before, Rob, and told you about everybody was in favor of Twitter and Facebook and all of those mediums when the Arab Spring uprising took place. As soon as the tables are turned, and now it's people talking about our government and making comments about our government, then it's all of a sudden it's bad. I wonder how that all of a sudden happens. And also, Mr. Trudeau, and people can argue this back and forth, by design got into a fight with the newspapers. That's why you cannot share a newspaper article or a news article on Facebook. And I believe that was by design.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he got into an argument with newspapers. I mean, he's flooded the newspapers with bailout money. Maybe into a fight with Facebook. Yeah, for sure. Meta. Be right back, though. That was a quick hour. We'll pick it up in the second hour.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
We've been talking today on Talkback. Welcome to hour number 2. I'm Rob Snow. About policing the internet. The government regulating content on the internet. Finding out where you stand on that. Whether you're open to the idea of the government regulating content on the internet. Online harms. Harmful content. Not open at all, totally opposed to the idea, somewhat open to it, in favor of it because of dangerous content on the internet, and that sort of content should be regulated. What would you say? 1-833-668-2577 when you do a dive on the Online Harms Act, as it was envisioned by the Trudeau people. It never passed. It could be brought back, though. What it aimed to do was to hold these massive tech companies responsible for the content that they have on their platforms. If it had passed, it would have forced these companies to reduce exposure to what the government said was harmful content. It would have had to create moderation tools. It would have had to have flagging systems for, and I'm using quotations here, harmful contact, create parental controls, age verification systems, content filters. And it would have forced these companies to take down material within 24 hours of harmful contact being flagged either by a user or a law enforcement agency or the regulator. In this case, the regulator would have been something called the Digital Safety Commission, which sounds kind of star chamberish, but that regulator would have had the power to say that material on that platform is harmful. And you have 24 hours to take it down and make sure it doesn't come back, or we're going to issue your company a massive fine. One of the problems that the government had was convincing critics that it had a clear understanding of what was harmful contact. Government said it was, well, we're trying to be as specific as possible. We're only interested in going after contact that harmed, for example, children, sexually explicit material, sexploitation, online bullying, content that promotes self-harm, hate speech, inciting violence, promotion of terrorism. Critics were worried, especially civil liberties organizations, that the government just wouldn't stop there. And that this idea of harmful content could mean anything. And that power to regulate harmful contact would eventually become any content that the government didn't like. And that compromised free expression maybe would even criminalize free expression. 1-833-668-2577. Pay attention to this one. It's going to be an important issue, I think. Aaron in Calgary. Thanks for waiting, Aaron. Welcome to hour number 2
Rob,
of
how's it
Talkback.
going?
Very good, sir. What's your opinion?
Yeah, so I think we've gone past the threshold of AI and how it's manipulating our world, and I don't know if we can regulate it anymore because we would use AI to regulate, which then, okay, whoever creates the AI is basically got the grip hold of that. So the real solution, what your other callers were saying, was bring back the families to talk about it, to have conversations. The moral corruption, the moral degrade in our society right now scares me because the future doesn't look too bright for us moving forward as a society. And with having content like the AI-generated videos, if you've seen any of them, they are just unbelievably real. And they're going to manipulate people and kids in ways where there's no way to stop that. And you can regulate all you want, but people are going to get around these things all they want. The internet is a free roaming place. And so are we wasting our money with regulation, or should we be educating people in the proper manner so that we have them in the right mindsets and the moral codes and the family values moving forward?
Okay. Yeah, it's a very popular opinion that this idea of content regulation, it has to start at home. That it may, as you say, it may even be impossible. It'll end up being a game of, whack-a-mole, if you will, to try and regulate this stuff.
Have you seen some of those AI generated videos though?
Oh yes.
And
absolutely.
And we're only at stage 1, but the advancement from 2 years ago to now is insanity. Scary. And then just moving forward to the next level of video is going to be even more, which then people are highly manipulative. And you can even see the culture changing mindset of you guys used to have work ethics. Now we have me attitude of what can you do for me, where we need to change that back to the work ethic and teaching our kids, hey, hard effort, hard work gets you somewhere, not the easy play, not the Twitch, the streamers, the quick way of winning. That's not the real solution in life.
Okay, thank you for your call. You've got us off to a good start here. It's hour number 2 of Talkback. We hope you'll join the discussion. It was very busy in the first hour. For the first time, we have some free lines. I think there's 4 of them there. So why don't you jump on one? We're talking about policing the internet, the government regulating content on the internet, content it deems to be harmful. Where do you stand on that? At 1-833-668-2577. I'm Rob Snow, Talkback hour number 2. Join the discussion. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Policing the internet, regulating content on the internet. Where do you stand on this? How open are you to the idea of the government regulating what it deems to be harmful content on the internet? 1-833-668-2577. Have your say on Talkback today. Anand in Calgary. Hello, Anand.
Good afternoon, Rob. How are you?
Yeah, hi there. Very good, thank you. What would you say?
Yeah, I have 2 aspects to this one. So first of all, the number of AI videos and harmful videos I've seen online, it's getting too much. Like sometimes you doubt yourself on if it's true or not, or if it's factual. So I would like to see the government intervene. But in the case that the government intervenes, how easy would it be them to stop it? Because, we have tools like you can now use VPN, for example, to create, let's say you get banned and not being able to post, then you might be able to use VPN, create different accounts. So the same person might be trying to create different accounts, different post as well. So how can you stop them unless there is a huge security verification, including like uploading pieces of government ID? I don't think you can really stop with the way technology is smarter these days.
Okay, thank you, Anand, for your call. Critics, when this was going through the first time around, and it didn't pass in the end, they split the bill in 2. And eventually, what was left of the bill, it died on the order paper. But critics said, look, there are already laws against all of this stuff already on the books, whether it's online, whether it's offline. Sexual exploitation of children, that's already illegal. Hate speech is already illegal. Inciting violence is illegal. Promoting terrorism is illegal. And some were concerned that a 24-hour removal notice would be used not to just flag and remove, say, clearly illegal material, but it could be used to remove material that might just be embarrassing to the government. There was a great concern that online harms could come to mean stuff that's online that's harmful to the fortunes of the government. Some might say, I don't know if you've been paying attention to this news story. Look what's happening in Nepal right now. You have a government that said, we're worried about social media. We're worried about fake news. We're worried about misinformation. So we're banning all of these social media platforms in Nepal. So the government is censoring the internet. And there have been riots over that, with protesters saying, the government is taking my voice away. The government is silencing voices of dissent. They have set the parliament buildings on fire in that country. They set the Supreme Court on fire in that country. Do you want to live behind a great firewall like they have in China, where the internet is heavily censored, where some terms like Tiananmen Square have been wiped from the internet in that country? You can't even search for terms like that in that country, all in the interest of social harmony. So the case was made when hearings were held on the original bill. You go down this road, you're flirting with a slippery slope here, if you will. You give the government an inch on this, the government's going to take a mile. And what starts as a totally rational sounding reason to regulate content on the internet, because you need to flag dangerous, explicit, illegal material that could harm children, you could actually end up having a chilling effect on the ability of everyone to freely express themselves. That the government, just being a government, wouldn't be able to help itself. There would inevitably be government overreach. Corey is in Calgary. today. Thank you for calling, Corey. You're on the air. Go ahead. Hi, Corey.
Hey, Ron, how's it going?
Yeah, Rob here. Yeah, very good. Thank you.
So I think we're asking the wrong questions here. So social media is already monitoring everything. So they track us, they pick up data, any websites, any places we go, any pictures, any texting we do, any research we do. They track it all. So why aren't they being held accountable when they're seeing cyberbullying happening on their social media and they do nothing about it? Isn't there a law that states that you are held accountable if you see it and do nothing about it? That's my issue. It's already being tracked. We're already being tracked on everything we do through these social media. But what is it? A privacy issue? So they can't admit that they're tracking us. So then the world would know the truth, or what? Like, it sounds like me, they're a bunch of cowards, and it's not up to the government. It's up to the social media platforms to step in and stop this stuff from happening.
Well, I mean, the social media platforms, you would have to have faith in the social media platforms to police themselves.
Oh, I know. But what I'm
Why
saying
would we
is,
have confidence in
it's
social media platforms to police themselves?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you get a child in school that's being social bullied, and, Facebook can see it, but they don't step in and shut down those people's accounts. They do nothing of it. Why? Because it's a privacy issue. They can't admit it.
Well, what if there was a law that said, we know that this activity is happening. We know that the people who are involved, and if they're engaging in this again on your platform, you're going to be fined. And you have 24 hours. You have 24 hours to make sure that doesn't happen. However however that you would go about doing that, banning those people from those accounts or whatever the case might be. I don't know.
Yep. I think that would work too. I just think, like I said, they need to be held accountable. I think they're involved in it, and they should be held accountable, and that's a criminal act. But
all right. So it sounds as though you would be, in favor to a certain degree of more regulation of these social media companies.
But I think social media should be stepping up and just telling us the truth that we are tracking you. We're going to step in. We're going to stop this from handling. We read this stuff every day and we let it go because we don't want to tell you that we're actually watching you.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Corey, good to hear from you today. Be right back on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Where do you stand on the government wanting more regulation of what it deems to be harmful content on the internet? Harmful content on the internet. 1-833-668-2577. To Tony in Kitchener up next. Hi, Tony.
Hey, Rob. How are you?
Very good, Tony. Thank you.
Good.
What's your opinion?
I think would have learned from COVID, if you let the government step in and regulate things, they will silence people. I mean, the government should not be in the business of regulating the internet. I mean, the genie's out of the bottle. I mean, I agree with what was happening out. People were talking about earlier about, where's the parents? Why aren't people watching what their children are doing online? You're counting on the government to regulate this? Come on. If you give the government that much power, they're going to abuse the power they have. They've proven it in the past, and I think they'll continue to do it. So that's just my opinion on it.
Okay. That the government won't be able to help itself. There will be government overreach.
Absolutely. I mean, just a real quick note here. I mean, there's things in place. I had a friend of mine whose daughter, long story short, was there's photographs on her online that were inappropriate. She was underage. They called the police. The police were involved, and within 24 hours, those pictures were taken down. They contacted the site, and they were taken down. So there are things in place and tools in place that we can use. Start using them.
Okay. Start using them. Okay. And this is a popular opinion today, personal responsibility.
Absolutely.
Starts at home.
Where are the parents?
Beware
Absolutely,
the
100%.
parents. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's a popular opinion today. That I didn't expect that to be as popular as it is, but I'm always open to being surprised with where the conversation takes us on Talkback. Let's go to Timothy in Calgary. Hi, Timothy. Timothy. All right, Timothy's a little bit behind there. Timothy. All right, let's put Timothy on hold and see if he can sort of stuff out there, and we'll see. Maybe we could reconnect with him after the news. We'll have to stop here. We're talking about policing the internet, if you will. Government regulating content on the internet. Where do you stand on that? How open are you to the idea of the government regulating what it calls harmful content on the internet in the interest of public safety, in the interest of protecting children? Opposed to the idea? Not open to it at all, non-starter for you, somewhat open to it, but the devil is in the details? Or would you say, you know what, sounds like a good plan because have you been on social media lately? It can be a dangerous place, and some of that content should be regulated, and those social media platforms should be held accountable for the material that is posted on there. 1-833-668-2577. We're back right after the latest breaking news. I'm Rob Snow. Lots of lines available there for you to share your opinion. Love to fit you in the tail end of the program today. This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Policing the internet, the government regulating content on the internet, on social media, harmful content. Where do you stand on that? Open to the idea, totally opposed to the idea? Tell us where you stand. 1-833-668-2577 here on Talkback. I think we've reconnected with Timothy. Let's try Timothy again. Hi, Timothy.
Yes.
Are you with me? Yes,
Yes,
Timothy.
I am.
Good
Good
to hear from
afternoon,
you.
Rob.
Yeah, very good to hear
Thank
from
you.
you. Thank you.
So
What's your opinion?
I'm equally as surprised as you are about the public popular opinion today, because I think that we should allow the government to regulate social media companies because they are clearly unable to police themselves. And for those who are concerned about overreach, I think there should be an oversight committee. And I know because I was part of a church during the COVID that spoke out against, the COVID measures because it's gone too far with the lockdown. So Canada is one of those countries where, unlike Nepal or China, other countries, the government can't really have that overreach because there will always be groups and there will be oversight. So no, I think there needs to be, and for those who are saying that the parents, the cost of living, there are many reasons why parents can't even keep keep an eye on their children this day and age. It's ridiculous. So no, I am totally in support of, if possible, government stepping in and controlling, I guess, a bit of censorship with oversight as a way of preventing overreach. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what about this idea? Because it's been a popular opinion today. If you're going to regulate content on the internet, that's not the government's job. It's the parents' job. Why do you say parents are too busy to do something like that? They're working too hard, working too many hours.
Working too many hours, and with the rise of the cell phone, as many people have said, things are changing in real time. Unlike I'm in my mid-40s. Unlike my days when there was no internet, no cell phone.
Oh yeah.
Kids these days are chatting with people who are sometimes older than them. Children are getting lured into ISIS and extremism. Many parents cannot even keep track of what their children are doing. All the social media platforms are out there. So no, I mean, it would be nice, maybe it worked 20, 25, 30 years ago when the family was a family. Everybody came back home at a certain time, have dinner. Now there are shift jobs. A parent is working during the day, another is working at night. They don't even, there's no consensus sometimes. There are many single family homes. So parents can't, I have teenagers, I try, but I can't even control. I don't even know who they are talking to most of the time. And that's the reality. Parents can't do it. It's not feasible.
So let's talk a little bit then about how this was kind of envisioned by the Trudeau government. Okay?
Yeah.
We want you social media platform, and if you don't comply we're going to fine you significant amounts of money. These are not, $1,000 fine. We're talking fines in the millions of dollars. You have to create content moderation tools. You have to be able to flag systems for harmful content. You need to create parental controls. You need real substantive age verification systems. You need to content filters. If content is flagged to be harmful, either by a user, law enforcement agency, or the regulator, this Digital Safety Commission, you would have 24 hours to take it down and make sure it doesn't come back. It would have to be basically wiped from the internet. What do you think of something like that? Failure to comply results in a big fine.
Well, I think it does put the onus back on the social media giants who are, how an addict is high on drugs. Social media companies need the like, they need the click. And so this does put the onus on the social media companies, which like Meta, which I mean, don't get me wrong, like there will always be that argument on the other side of overreach and sometimes content that are not even inappropriate being, it may come across as an attack on freedom of speech, to some extent. However, I agree with it. I mean, I can't be 100% on board with every single measure, but I would say 80%. Yes, I agree with,
all right, Timothy.
with the bill. But thanks for your show, Rob.
Okay, thank you, Timothy. Yeah, thank you for calling today. We have a lot of free lines available there, every single line available there right now. 1-833-668-2577. Lots of time to fit you in here. I mean, there were lots of concerns raised when this was going through the machinations of Parliament the first time around. For example, one of the proposed sentences for hate speech as part of this bill would have been life in prison, which some groups thought was a bit over the top. There would have also been peace bonds for people who the government thought might be likely to post hateful material online, but hadn't done so. The government just thought they were going to do that, so there would have been peace bonds issued. And critics, again, like civil liberties groups, said, well, that's kind of like prosecuting pre-crime. You're going after people for crimes they might commit, and the justice system is not supposed to work that way. So there were all kinds of concerns about the way the bill was set up. As I said, it didn't pass. And now they're going back to the drawing board. It doesn't mean that the government's interest in this has gone away or that the issues have gone away. All the issues are still there on social media. Terrible child sexual material, online bullying, hate speech, extremism, promoting terrorism. All of these issues are still with us. And the government's desire to try and control this contact and crack down on the proliferation of this content, that's still there. The government still wants to regulate the internet to a certain extent. Where do you come down on that? At 1-833-668-2577. More of your calls are coming up before we call it a day here on Talkback. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Policing the internet, the government regulating what it deems to be harmful content on the internet. What do you think about that? If the government were to make big moves into that, what would you think? Elaine, up next on Talkback. Hello, Elaine.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
Very good, Elaine. What do you think?
I guess I see twofold. On one hand, I can understand the desire or the motive to protect people and our children and teenagers from, explicit material with minors. But on the other hand, I feel like we are raising a generation of no resilience. There's a whole helicopter parenting situation. This feels like helicopter governmenting. And I fully disagree with the gentleman who phoned that said parents can't deal with anymore. If you have children, you need to be able to manage your children and talk to them about those things. And if they screw up, that's fine. Let's just teach them how to deal with mess ups, teach them how to deal with all these other things. That's our job as parents.
Okay.
And there are apps out there, actually. If you're providing your children with cell phones or devices, there's an app where you can actually see in real time what they're looking at, what their searches are, who they're talking to, all of those things. So you can manage that on your own device. So if you're going to trust them with this tech, that's totally
Okay.
fine. But you can also watch for it and see what they're doing as well.
Right. You could be the content regulator. You don't need the
Exactly. And
government
you
to
should
be
be.
the content regulator. Okay. And you should be.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, we should be. It's our job. You have kids, parent them. That's my job. I understand parents are busy. I am too. But there's ways we need to work with our kids on how to give them not just that freedom, but how to deal with that freedom. And then if things do happen, you need to have that conversation and work forward with that. So that's my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very smart. Thank you, Elaine. Thank you. Martin, first time caller. No, Martin.
Hi there.
Hi,
Hello.
Martin. What do you think, Martin? Yeah, go ahead, Martin.
Well, I don't like any of the social media platforms at all. I'm not on any of them, but I am a true believer in free speech. So
Okay.
if I don't also believe that the government should not be raising our children. It's up to the parents.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah, if people have a problem with that, they need to watch what their children are doing online. And like the lady prior said, there are apps to watch and protect them. But you as a parent, you should be in the know of what your children are doing online.
Okay. Is there any obligation at all upon social media platforms to police the kind of content that's on their platforms?
Well,
should they not be held to account at all? If they're hosting a platform that has sexually explicit material involving children, or we know there's sexploitation taking place, or online bullying, or hate speech, or people inciting violence, as we've seen in the last week after the Charlie Kirk assassination, or they're promoting terrorism on a social media platform, should there be consequences for the platform for putting that material online?
Definitely. They know what's being put on their platform. So I do believe there should be consequences for that.
Should be consequences for that. For example, if content is flagged, what the original bill would have done, you have 24 hours to take it down, or you're going to face a fine.
I agree with that.
You agree with that? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, if it's hate speech, there's no such thing as hate speech. It's not hate speech isn't freedom of speech, or any form of that. So.
Okay, well, you don't think there's hate speech, but there's hate speech laws in Canada.
No,
hate
speech is not freedom of speech.
Hate speech. Oh, I see. Okay, I misunderstood what you said, sir. I apologize for that.
Yeah.
Hate speech is not freedom of speech. Got you loud and clear on that. Thank you for clarifying what you meant.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. Thank you. All right, Martin. Okay, good call. Interesting. Yeah, time for one more. How about James? Cambridge, Ontario. James. Hi, James.
Hey, how's it going?
Very good, James. What's your opinion here on our topic today?
Well, I think it is up to the parents at some point to regulate. But me personally, I'm a single full-time dad. I work all day long. I'm not always there. Now, I do have an app in place now to regulate so I can see what she is looking at and what not. But I do think that some of these sites need to be held responsible as well, especially things like Snapchat, where there's millions of predators on there, and they have to know what is going on, and yet it's still able to be shown and be done to some of these children.
Right. So you think you would be in because again that would be policing the internet, that would be regulating content on the internet, but you think these platforms should be held accountable and face sanction if they're
hosting. I think they should be held accountable 100%, especially when little children are being exploited all over their platforms. Like you can't. There's no way that some of these platforms, they don't know what's going on, and it's still kind of brushed under the rug. It seems to me, and it's still being able to be done.
Okay, James, thank you. I'm glad we could fit your comment in here. 1-833-668-2577. We do have to stop here. We'll be right back. We have a few minutes left to fit you in. Don't worry, if you're on the line, you'll get on the air on News Radio.
something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
The government regulating harmful content on the internet. Where do you stand on that? A few minutes left here. Cameron is up next. Hello, Cameron.
Hi.
Hi, Cameron.
Hi, Rob.
What's your opinion?
How are you?
Very good, Cameron. Thank you.
I think the government should have that kind of control, but only to the extent where they can tell the people, tell the platforms that, okay, this is what you can do, this is what you cannot. The rest, honestly, parenting is parenting. Like, if I have kids and, I'm the reason to bring them in the world, I should be teaching them, I should be training them, I should be telling them what is good, what is not good, what is right, what is wrong.
Okay. What about the role of social media platforms and whether they should face penalties if they host, violent or sexually explicit material online?
100%. Anybody who's out there to make our to make our communities, to make our to harm our kids and communities, should face the penalties.
So you would like to see, or you would be in favor of seeing these
Penalties,
social media
for sure.
platforms maybe policed a little bit more, regulated a little bit more.
I would not use the word of policing, but I would say regulated, yes.
Regulated, okay. All right. But you still don't think that absolves, I'm trying to understand this, you still don't think that absolves parents from taking more responsibility and making sure their children are aware of the dangers that are online. Do I have that right?
Yes, I still, in my opinion, parents are parents. Yes, when we were growing up, there were no such things at that time. Yes, now the challenges might be more, but still, it is the responsibility of parents to, to make sure that their kids are growing up as a good citizens.
Very good. All right. Thank you, Cameron. I'm glad we could fit you in today on Talkback. Thank you so much for all of your calls. I mean, one of the reasons that we wanted to get into this today are the various issues from the Charlie Kirk story as they relate to, the government's possible role. We're not saying they're going to do this, but the possible role in seeking expanded powers to regulate the internet. First of all, you had the terrible video of the shooting, close up, graphic, incredibly violent, with nothing left to the imagination. A video that's been viewed probably billions of times, including by very young children. So you have that. What if the Canadian government had the authority to tell a platform like X or TikTok, you have to take that video down? Is that something that you could go for? And then you have the back and forth on social media, people celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, wishing for more of that, which is inciting violence. People on the other side, just as bad, saying, let's take revenge. Let's avenge the murder of Charlie Kirk. Also incitement to violence. What if the government flagged material like that online? And if the regulator said that the platform didn't comply, you would hit the platform with a massive fine. And then there's just the whole issue of online radicalization, which we didn't really explore today. It's clear that this person somehow became radicalized to the point they're alleged to have done this. What if the government somehow had the authority to shut down whatever private chat group or whatever that this individual is part of? What if the government or the regulator, law enforcement gets a tip that says, I'm really worried about what I'm reading in these private chats and what these people are saying about what they want to do to people they don't agree with? They're talking about carrying out violence. Should the government be able to say whatever company owns that platform that is hosting those chats, you need to shut that stuff down? Is that even possible? So many questions as we end another Talkback. We'll be back tomorrow, brand new topic, more of your calls, and always the latest breaking news on News Radio.